All right, welcome to a new episode of the Fair Chase podcast. Today, I have a fellow Michigander, although you're on the east side of the state, Kevin Vistisen on Deer Hunter podcast host, Michigan hunter extraordinaire. I don't know. Introduce yourself. You know, what do you do? Where do you live? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I reside just out, I guess, Metro Detroit, northern area of Metro Detroit. What do I do? I'm a plumber out of local 98 here, do commercial and industrial service, a lot of work at hospitals, financial institutions, schools, and then DT facilities, all that. So I'm a plumber by trade, and I've just always loved deer hunting. I grew up playing sports and hunting and fishing, and this is the one thing that has always just like my interest in it has never faded. It only ever amplifies. So it was only natural that I guess that I tried to spend more time doing this, and that led me to the podcast and just curating some media over the course of the last couple of years and building out some partnership with some brands. And now kind of realizing that it's like our time, our generation's time to kind of pass this heritage on, put a good face to it, make people realize why it's like absolutely critical that we continue this for the North American model of wildlife management and to protect future generations to have this, luxury, I guess you could call it, but this way of lifestyle that's been, it's basically how I identify myself as a hunter,
Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting you say the word luxury, that we get to hunt our deer this way, and that gets into political questions that we can maybe dive into at another time. I have a feeling I know where you land politically, but anyways, no, that's great. Question for you though, and this might be obvious, but you have to add some detail, right? So the question that we ask people is, what's your favorite hunt? Like your favorite hunt. You can't just like say categorically, I like to deer hunt, because like looking at the name of your podcast, obviously you like to deer hunt.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite? If you had to pick one type of hunt, one place to hunt, what would that be?
Yeah, it's super simple as you try to pull some focus back there, huh? What's
What
going on?
is that?
Yeah, that's spooky.
I don't know how that happens. Hopefully it clears itself up. Otherwise, I'm
Man.
blurry man from the now on.
All right. Yeah, it seems like it was trying.
That
That's
is
what.
bizarre. Where's Jared? I need Jared to fix this. Anyways, oh, there we go. Look at that.
Wow, look at that. Yeah, that's really easy for me. It's not necessarily a weapon that's going to identify my hunt. It's more of the experience. And so that could be a bow or a rifle or a shotgun or a muzzleloader, but it's going up into northern Michigan and going out into some semi-remote forest and just feeling like I'm the only one around for a real long ways, and try to find a concentration of deer and see some new beautiful countryside. Maybe I've been in there before, maybe I haven't, but yeah, that's just ideal for me. And it's 28 degrees. Like I like it
all right.
when it snows a little bit and you get some snow, but I don't want it to be freezing cold.
Yeah.
But I also don't want it to be a wet snow where it makes the woods dead quiet. So that 28 degrees keeps everything a little bit crispy and crunchy, and you're not freezing to death, but a little bit of white snow on the ground really helps see some deer move. And yeah, man, I maybe give me a northwest wind 5 to 10 miles an hour and put me in there like anywhere from November, anywhere in the month of November. I'm cool with anywhere in the month of November.
November is an awesome month. I mean, October is great, and December can be cool too, but November is awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the pinnacle of the whole thing, if you're a rut phase hunter, which I kind of always have been. So
you a swamp guy? You swamp man?
Yeah, I mean historically I have spent an insane amount of time in a bunch of really dense swamp, and I've actually come to find out maybe that I've overdone it. There's certain times to be there and there's certain times to not, and there's only certain parts in a swamp that deer there's not much in there for them. They're kind of using it as cover and traverse in daylight and for some bedding opportunities. But you can write off 80% of that, 90% of that swamp. They're going to be in the 10% every time. And now I've been trying to like figure that out. What is that 10%? So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I figure if you're from Michigan, you like to deer hunt, you spent some time in a swamp. I
oh
think
yeah,
that's
man,
the rite of passage right there.
no doubt about it. Cedar swamps are pretty special, for
They
deer
really
hunting.
are.
Yeah, you feel like you're like disconnected from the world as you know it.
If you haven't gotten lost, well, I guess maybe now you don't as much with GPS and stuff and whatever else, but I've gotten lost,
Yep.
in those
Yeah,
swamps.
it sucks. It sucks to get turned around in any capacity because it can get hairy for you real quick, and it's not like a yeah. I mean, it's energy exerting to traverse around in them. So if you get a little bit of an elevated heart rate, get worked up, and you start going like you're going to get out of there,
Yeah.
wrong move.
Well, I did a hunt in Alaska. I know I'm supposed to be keeping this timely, but and they were talking about this muskeg, like this tundra walking, and I get out there, I'm like, this is what some of these swamps that I like. If you're from Michigan and you go into these swamps, you have a good sense of what Alaska is like on the tundra. It's very similar, just squishy, like uneven terrain. You're always kind of off balance. You just add in for the cedar swamp, thick vegetation around you for the most part,
Yeah,
briars or we call them prickers.
yeah, and a
You
dense
know,
canopy above you.
yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, Kevin, question of the month. The question of this month of October. It's not the magic month of November yet when this will come out. But what is the most useless piece of gear in your pack right now? When you go out, it's always in there. It's like, I never use that. It just takes up space and weight.
It's probably my knife sharpener because I always sharpen my knife before I go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it never gets pulled out in the field, but I
Right.
keep it there so I know where it is. Always know where it is. But I never ever use it. So I could probably find a new spot for it.
Hey,
Because I
man,
take a sharp knife with me.
this is a self-help podcast, and we really is aimed at helping our guests become better. And so you're welcome for that. Like, I'll send you the bill later for that advice.
Right.
Okay, so dive in. Tell me, when you're thinking of a hunting story, personally, you're
Yeah.
at a bar, somebody asks you, "Oh, you hunt?" Yeah. Well, tell me tell me a hunting story. Like, what comes to mind for you?
So I guess, are you looking for more of like a personal experience
Yeah, your
or?
hunt where you were out, and it could be failure, it could be success, anywhere in between.
Well, I imagine a lot of your listening audience is Michigan. Can I
A good amount, yeah.
assume that?
Safe.
So let's keep it Michigan. And traditionally grew up a bait hunter.
Okay.
I've
Yep.
spent a lot of time, a lot of years, hunting over bait. That's how I grew up hunting.
Hmm.
And I didn't have like I wasn't surrounded by like killers or like real
Right.
serious deer hunters. I was surrounded by the crew that liked to play cards and go to deer camp and cook a bunch of good food. And
Same. Yep.
okay, but I liked the deer hunting a lot. And when I got a taste of being successful at it, I wanted as much of that as I could get. So I had to figure out a way now. Like, I never killed a big buck over bait. I've killed a couple
Yep.
nice bucks, but it was never the result of putting bait out. But I've killed a bunch of deer over bait. So I think it's an effective tool. But I think
Yeah.
now I'm a confident enough and good enough hunter that I can just get out and choose topography and food sources and get on deer and get them killed. And I think that is the most effective way to kill bigger deer.
Yeah.
And so I guess when I'm thinking in my head right now, I have two particular circumstances in the last couple of years where it's like, oh yeah, the learning curve is really like clicking in here now.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's the stay mobile thing is always we grew up hunting in box blind. I mean,
Yep.
pretty much literally figuratively nailing your place to a tree, right? So uh but that's what people like to do. People like to put roots down, like in all aspects of life. It's just a human thing. They like to put roots down. We like to get comfortable.
Mhm.
But that is not the most conducive way, especially if you're going to be hunting state land, to get on deer, because you don't have control over a lot of the variables. So you got to be flexible. And so getting into the mobile hunting, by means of tree stand or
Yep.
saddle, learning how to navigate, learning how to read topography and food signs, and just see, experience of recreating itself over and over again. I had a spot a couple of years ago historically that, I would go in there and I would just, by way of bowl and china shop, just put the hours in and
Yep.
just be there and just run into a deer. And now that I have a family and work a lot, I'm not afforded that tactic. And so I have to be a little bit more surgical and strategic. And I'm always trying to play my highest odds.
Yep.
So I went into a spot a couple of years ago. It's always been a producer. And I was sitting there the first morning. It was a beautiful morning. We had north wind, 5 miles an hour. It was about 28 degrees. There was a fresh snow from overnight, and just a nice, steady snow coming down. It
I
was
love that.
beautiful.
Yep.
I'm sitting in a mix of pines and hardwoods, and it's just as beautiful as a morning.
That's Michigan, right? That's pure Michigan.
Dude, I'm telling you. But it's also pure Michigan because I didn't see a single deer. So the morning's getting long and I'm not seeing deer. And I know this spot, 8:30 in the morning, if there's deer around, they're coming through here.
Yeah.
Wasn't the case. And so by 10 o'clock, I think I had had enough and I just wasn't feeling it. And normally I would just be programmed to sit in there, sit in there. And I got down and there really wasn't much for deer sign. And, now in hindsight, I know that had to do with the acorns, mass crop in that area was not there that year. And now it's something that I pay attention to because these areas will be vacated of deer. It's like one year it's real good. Why is it so good? There's acorns everywhere. And then, so anyways, got down, just had my stand sticks on my back and just went. And I'm following the topography, following edge, just looking for sign. And after about a mile, I found some really good sign, like concentration of deer tracks from that night, that morning, fresh poop, some rubs. There's a lot of deer in here.
Right.
And so pick a tree. Yeah, that makes sense. Get there, get my stand set up. And then I guess that would have been the November 14th because the following morning was opening morning. And so I elected to put that stand up and sneak out of there and plan and mark an entry route for the following morning for what the wind was saying that it was going to do. I was going to use the light and the time to get my entry with my breadcrumb trail on my mapping software just spot on so I could follow that in the morning, because this was a new spot. Going in there in the morning, you can think you know exactly where you're going, but man, you miss a step and then the next thing you know, you're like way off and now you're walking around and it's not good. So went in there in the morning, followed my trail right back, and by 11:30 I hit grunt call a couple times. Just I like to do that. I think a lot of times within the thick vegetation up there, those deer can be 75 yards off of you and you'd never see it. And if it's quiet, the sound carries quite a bit up there. So I'll mimic what I've heard of deer chasing does around up there.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And
wait, how does that go? What does that look like?
Bat.
Crunching around. Do you crunch the leaves or anything?
Probably right here somewhere. Searching around. No, I don't. I'm up in the I like to be, that's it. I mean, I've never had to do more than that. Depending on how noisy or quiet the woods is, I'll bring that up or bring that down. If the woods is real quiet, I'm pretty subtle about it. And then I'll just be still and I'll sit there and I'll wait. And a lot of times, and in this case, I'm sitting there, I'm still, and I see some movement coming through some pine trees. And then I see it's a deer, and then I see it's a buck, and then I see it's a decent buck. and he's working his way right towards me. And he got to like a fork in the trail where he could have went away from me or to me. And he decided to start going away from me. So I'm like, oh my God, I don't really have a shot. It's probably like 75 yards through
Right.
the forest. So I picked the grunt up and I hit it again, just bleh, and he turned on a dime and just got down in the bird dogging thing, and
Oh
he
yeah.
just came running in looking for a fight. And I put one right through him with 12 gauge slug through him at like 40 yards. And I mean, thank God I had the scope dialed all the way out.
Yeah.
Because I'm following him through this brush and he's coming fast, like
Sure.
right at me.
Just clip. Yeah. Just had a clip. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like waiting for the scope I've got the scope on his shoulder, but I'm waiting for it to empty out of like brush and trees and everything,
Yeah.
to where all I see is deer. And I got that momentarily, pulled the trigger. He mule kicked and ran. I'm right on the edge of a cedar swamp. So he
Okay.
went
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the cedar swamp. And that's the last I saw or heard of him. And so I'm sitting there, heart's going through the chest. I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure I hit him good, but I've
You
said
never
that before.
know when it's that thick and
When it
they're
happens
moving
that
fast. Yep.
fast, the whole thing happened in 10 seconds, I
Yep.
feel like.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Totally.
So I go through all the emotions and I'm like, all right, I've waited like 30 minutes. I'm going to at least get down and look and see what the blood looks like. And so I pack my bag, drop my bag down, drop my firearm down, and I flip the seat up, go over. I go down one stick and I turn and look over and he's piled up dead right there, like 20 yards. So I was like, man, if I hadn't gotten down yesterday and moved and found this hot sign and got on it and hung
Yeah.
here, I would not have this deer killed.
Yeah, man. Staying mobile. I mean, reacting to what you're seeing. And I'm scrolling through. I just pulled up your Instagram, scrolling to find, I want to find a picture of that buck. So first of all, it's incredible. I love when it comes together, when you adjust and you make it work. But like, say you're looking back now, say you're talking to yourself a year or two before that, like, what'd you learn? Like, what advice would you have if, what led to success? Sometimes people don't have success. But like, looking at this particular hunt, like, why did this work? What'd you learn from it? Oh, there we go.
That's it, man. You give it 3 or 4 of them and then maybe one more.
Yeah.
You just wait and you just listen,
Right.
and yeah, that's it. So I'm sorry, I was focused on,
No,
I knew
I'm
that was
actually
right
very
behind me when
glad.
you asked me, because the did a disservice. So
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a classic. So the reason I ask is because, so Jared claims to have invented this. He calls it the buck run. And so he'll like do that, run,
yeah,
run. But he'll
yeah.
run through the,
Okay.
through the woods while he does it. He calls it
Sounds like a reasonable way to get shot.
You think, yeah, well, I mean, gun season, he's gonna get shot, but for bow season, he'll do it early on in the rut. And I always was like,
Has it worked?
yeah, it has
Yeah, I believe
worked.
it. I
It's
believe it.
worked, and bucks will come in right up to him, like
Right.
right to him. Like,
Sure.
it's funny you say this grunting and stuff. The last couple of years, so I grew up and I was told never grunt. Like, this is Michigan. You hunt where you hunt. Like, you cannot grunt, like you'll scare deer away. And the last couple of years, I've been just trying it on public land, and it works a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, I've shot a lot of deer grunting. Grunting them off of their beds. Like, that's what I like to
Yeah.
do, is get down to edge of a cedar swamp, get set up real quiet,
Yep.
and then maybe an hour, like an hour before, when the deer are already naturally thinking they're about to get up and start moving.
Yeah.
I'll throw a couple grunts and I'll have deer materialize out of what I thought was going to be a bedding spot, and I've killed a good amount of deer that way.
Yeah, I always forget my grunt, so I've slowly over the years just been using the mouth grunt, and it works fine.
Yeah, dude, honestly, some of the ones at the store, like, they need to go away.
They sound like garbage.
So bad. And I hear them when I'm out in the woods. I hear people
It sounds
Yeah,
very like a roll, like it just sounds plasticky when you
it
hear it.
sounds, yeah, it just doesn't sound like what I hear what a deer sounds like. And
Yeah, because they
I
make a
like
lot
to
of noise.
put mine often up against my jacket or some material too, and make it, make that diffuse that sound a little bit, because
Yeah.
they'll come right. I mean, they'll come right to your tree.
Yep.
Their ears are like little radar devices. That's what their ears do. They turn and they pick up that sound, and they know exactly, like on a dime, they're going to walk right to it.
Yeah. They'll come
So
right up to you.
I like to tuck it into my jacket or something and diffuse the sound a little bit to throw them a little curveball.
Throw your voice a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question I did ask was lessons learned, tips for success. Like, why were you successful here? What'd you learn from this hunting story?
That there's always going to be a better spot. You just got to find it. I believe, you're playing percentage of odds. So if you're just, when you get to have confidence, I think, and you have a feeling, you get it like an intuition.
Yeah.
Whereas just like, this isn't happening, I'm not seeing what I want to, I would typically ride that out and then do some complaining. Then,
Sure.
and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that that's the way a lot of Michigan deer hunters operate.
Yep.
Um,
It's that mobile mindset. It's like you said, that was a good way to put it. I like what you said. Like people like to put their roots like down, like to settle in.
they do.
And you got to fight that when you hunt because man, like everything you described is how I grew up hunting. It's like everybody had their spot. There were literal wood stands.
Right.
You hunted there no matter what all the time. And you would shoot some does. And I shot a lot of does that way. But it was like the same group. It'd be like, oh, there's I'd shoot one of the ones of the group this year. They'd have fawns or whatever. They'd come through next year. And it's like the same. I'm hunting the same deer over and over again.
Sure.
Interesting. So you're a good spot is always out there, and the intuition, which I can say that I've been feeling that more lately over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, where I can go to a spot and this is I don't know if it's from all the guests I've had on or all the reading or just experience, but like you said, you get to a spot and it's like this feels for some reason. Obviously you point out different reasons why it should be good, but some you just feel for whatever reason it is, and maybe that's that intuition piece.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been, I think everybody gets there a little bit differently. Everybody likes different things about a spot or an area or things that build confidence. And so, yeah, you just kind of get in there and figure out your style. And never been a better time to be a mobile hunter. That's for sure. The education and the gear and everything that's available is ridiculous. So
you can get, there's so many good things out there for mobile hunting, deer hunting. I mean, even just a handful of years ago, there wasn't. Like we'd go out and Jared and I for years, our idea of mobile hunting was these old rickety climber stands. Like the climber for a long time in my mind was the pinnacle of mobile hunting.
Sure.
You can carry it on your back end and it would stick out, like over your shoulders.
Some of them were offensive.
Yeah, loud. And I've told the story on the podcast, but mine slipped. I had no money. This was high school or college, and it was just a terrible tree stand. I get it halfway up and it like fell. And man, that was like, I'm not going back into that. I'm not doing that again. So I haven't been to a climber since. I don't know if they're good or better now, but that was
I got a good one.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't have a rail around the front of it. So it's an open face.
What kind is it?
Summit Viper, I believe is what it is. I know it's a Summit.
Yeah.
I think it's called a Viper. Super light, climbs good. It's decent. Just my problem is with it is obviously then you're hunting trees, because you're not. Yeah, I mean it's kind of ridiculous, but some landscapes, hey, some people, they're in an area where that's fine. They have all those out. Like that's not how our woods is laid out though. Usually where there's nice pristine trees is not where the deer are going to be. Right.
Well, and you stick out because there's no cover around you.
Yeah, you stick out. And then also I've personally just never been able to be real quiet. I never felt like I was being stealthy.
Yeah, no. It's like don't clink. You do well for a while and it's like then you drop it all. It's like gunk, after you've done such a good job.
Happens.
You go up one of those, what are those trees? The real barky trees.
All of them.
freaking all.
Yeah,
all of them.
honestly, they're so damn noisy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like sticks and hang on personally a lot. Last year I saddle hunted for the first time, and I'll be using that for the foreseeable future as a tool as well. I think I'm going to do majority of my gun hunting out of the saddle and majority of my bow hunting off of the stand, to be honest with you.
People don't give the saddle hunting with a rifle enough credit.
Dude, it's ridiculously awesome.
It's a rest right in front of you, you know?
Your tree and your bridge.
Yep, exactly. Your tree you can hold up against, which I just actually got it back from the taxidermist, shot a coyote, like headshot him. I mean, just because I was able to anchor real nice and I was just cozy, it took my time.
Yeah.
And dropped him it was a long shot.
Just the way you're slung in there too, you're already really steady.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a fan.
Yeah. Well, all right. So, the goal of these is to get your hunting story out, get your lessons learned out. And, like you said, you look back and always looking for that better spot. So for people, who are out there listening to this podcast and want to follow along, like you put out pretty awesome photography. You're doing some cool projects. You've, put out cool videos in the past and so on. And so for people who want to hear what you're doing, see what you're doing, follow your hunts, where can they find you online?
Yeah, everything is housed at our website, deerhunterpodcast.com, and all of our links for our social media, the podcast episode. It's published on all platforms, but we try to get it up there every Friday. We release every Friday. We kind of like to put a show out feeling like we're going into the weekend.
I love it.
A little morale booster on a Friday. So usually, yeah. And then we've been getting some, I've actually been working on making a line of outdoor technical apparel, and people are going to start seeing that here soon, all made in the United States. Making a couple technical pieces that I feel like are missing out there and I need them. So I'm just going to make them. And if other people want to use them, they'll have the ability to. I'm having everything made at a place in Minnesota. So,
that Great Lakes connection Great Lakes region.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued. All right. Well, follow along, everybody. And I'll say one of the things that you put out, I especially appreciate is the Theodore Brosevelt t-shirts.
Yeah.
That cracks me up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good
I appreciate
stuff.
that. Was a collective. Yeah, that was a collective effort of one of my goofy friends calling me Theodore Brosevelt. And then me thinking about what's the most bro thing right now, and it's pit viper glasses. And so I just thought, what if we dropped a pair of pit vipers on old Theo? And
he looks good.
Yeah, my friend Ryan Silver over there that been the designer for G5 and Prime here for a whole lot of years. He put that together for me, and we made the whole thing come to fruition as a t-shirt. So
it's great.
Man. I think appreciate that.
His teeth are what make it. I feel like every time I see that, he's got them good looking teeth, very straight.
It worked. I mean, it came together, right?
Yeah, it's good. I literally saw it and it made me literally laugh out loud, literally LOL. Cool. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, everybody go check him out. Kevin, thanks for taking the time to do this. Like I said, we've been chatting back and forth for a while. So to get you on here, share a story is great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and good luck to all the listeners here. Thanks for joining us and entertaining the idea of that we have any clue what we're talking about.
I'm learning from Kevin, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
But good luck to everybody in the deer woods this year for sure.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.